Right, hello. Hopefully this goes live all right. Apologies, I wanted to do a stream last night, but timings didn't really work out. So at the time I wanted to do it, then it was my aunt and uncle came round, and I thought do it when they go, but then they stayed quite late, so didn't get a chance to do it. So do one today, New Year's stream. Hope everybody's all right. Hopefully this goes out to people. All right, Shadow Company. So yeah, I'll do a stream for about an hour or whatever. Might not be typical. Just as I fucking start streaming, I get a PM I have to reply to. So all right, Rajiv. All right, Ballsy. So yeah, annoyingly was going to do a stream yesterday, but my aunt and uncle came about the sort of worst possible time for doing a stream, as in if they'd have come a bit later, I'd have had time to do a stream before they arrived. And if they'd have, left earlier, I'd have had a chance to do a stream before bed, but they sort of came earlier. Yeah, it's all right. It's nice seeing relatives and that. It's just one of those things where, yeah, it was that typical thing, where if they'd have come a bit later or a bit earlier or whatever and left a bit earlier, it would have been fine. But sort of at the time I was going to start streaming, I'd only been able to do about 20 minutes. So I thought I'll hang on till they've been at that point. And then, yeah, they sort of stayed quite late. So, not very nice start of the new year, is it, Rajiv? But it's what you expect, really, with all this sort of shit. That's all right. You're not very late at all compared to when most people are late. I've only been on 2 minutes. All right, I love skier. I don't love Keir Starmer, if that's what your name is to be. But yeah, so I've got the old Schwichtelhelm on, and I redid the line of things by putting two metal cable ties together. Metal cable ties are quite good if you've never used them. They're like these things. You can obviously link them up to each other, or you can have an individual one on their own. But yeah, these are pretty damn useful. So unlike a regular cable tie, you can deattach it, so it's a reusable kind of cable tie, but they're quite hard to cut through. Is that Kia, Rajiv? Oh, I'm very sorry to hear about the fire in Switzerland. If only I could have done something about it. Oh no. But yeah, so like I said, those metal cable ties are useful. I bought them for just sort of key rings and that, and mostly for doing like anti-theft lanyards. So you can obviously have something on you that if somebody tries to rip it off you, it's like a little stainless steel wire as opposed to a bit of fabric. But I thought I'd quit Warno, but I didn't. Okay, let me save that and quit. New save, confirm, exit, confirm. Yeah, I'll have a look at what else is on the news in a minute, but like I said, that's the main news I've heard on most things today. I've also got one of these Swiss helmets. I'll do a short on them at some point in the aluminium yellow version, because the military version's this colour and steel, and the civil defence ones are made out of like yellow aluminium, like bright yellow. So I've got one of those as well. The civil defence ones also have a cheaper liner, but because it's a more modern liner than this one, it's actually in better condition. I think there's actually even still a chin strap on my civil defence one. I could do another chin strap for this because it's still got the brackets for it. Yeah, it's literally like a loop on two sides. Look for the chin strap on this helmet. So yeah, at some point I'll probably do an elastic chin strap for this helmet just so I can yeah, it is kind of like the Darth Vader helmet. Not as much of the Darth Vader helmet as the one that Saddam had his like elite troops wear, which is a real thing. But yeah, out of all the proper military helmets, I'd say this is yeah, pretty Darth Vader-y. If you've ever seen Hobo with a shotgun, it's what one of the members of the Plague wears. I think it's Rip. Plague hobo with a shotgun. Right. So yeah, it's Rip. But yeah, so Rip from Hobo with a Shotgun has one of these. I don't know if it's actually this one. I think by look of it, it looks more like the civil defense version that's been spray painted this color, because you can see the little rivets in it which aren't in this one. But yeah, well, that's Jumanji with Van Pelt. You miserable coward, come back and face me like a man. But yeah, so yeah, this is obviously based on the German World War II Stahlhelm, just even bigger, the Swiss one. See at the back, it's got the rivets in the same place like the German one. But yeah, even bigger. And it's got that weird thing where they put sawdust on it, like they glued sawdust to it before painting it to give it a weird texture. But yeah, so Swiss, like I said, Swiss Stahlhelms. Interesting things. I mean, I like them just because they're goofily big, but in the 70s they went to a much smaller steel helmet that looks kind of like if you crossed a Stahlhelm with a USM1 helmet. But obviously, like I said, the like the World War One era to like 70s era helmet they had, I think is pretty cool. So yeah, there you go. I didn't actually put this on because of the news of Switzerland today, by the way. I wasn't doing that to be like a dickhead or anything. It's just conveniently I was like, I'm going to put that Swiss helmet on that's cool for a stream, because people sometimes like it when there's helmets on the stream. And yeah, I don't really know how large the actual helmet is, because if you, again, had the liner tightened up enough, it's mostly, yeah, just like an empty, there's a lot of dead space in this helmet, but it doesn't really mean it's a very large helmet, you know, if that makes sense. So it's not like it's a stupidly large helmet for my head. It's just that, yeah, these helmets in general were stupidly big, because I think they're doing like the British Brodie style design of having a wide rim on the helmet to stop shrapnel coming down on top of you, but they also wanted the German head protection kind of thing, so you then end up having, I genuinely like this one, but my favorite helmet's my modern British Army one, because it's actually yeah, it's quite samurai-ish, isn't it? Yeah. But yeah, the modern British Army one, because it's made of ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, it's a very good strong helmet, good lightweight, you know, you can put night vision on this. With retro helmets, this is definitely one of my favorites. I also quite like the Yugoslav Stahlhelm. I did actually find that earlier when I dug this helmet out, but the Yugo Stahlhelm's pretty good as well. But this is one of the helmets I like because it's stupidly goofily big. You know, because I guess, like I was saying, they tried to do the thing of give people head protection plus, you know, like shoulder protection with this bit. Yeah, the East German M56 I like as well, which is like the other weird Stahlhelm, which is like this, but with the angles just like that. It's very conical. Yeah, I brought up the Saddam Vader helmet just now because somebody said it looked a bit like Darth Vader, and I was like, there's actually a Saddam helmet. I'm going to find this now. It's like the Fayaqeen helmet or something like that. It's, yeah, the Fadayin Saddam. Here we go. The Imperial War Museum has a page on it. There you go. So yeah, that was the helmet for Saddam's elite like troops. But it's made of fiberglass, not even steel, so it's not going to actually give you any sort of real head protection anyway. But yeah, for whatever reason, they decided to make it, yeah, the Fayadin Saddam's martyrs. So they were his most loyal troops. So they were like Saddam's SS. So he gave him a helmet that wouldn't stop anything ballistically and made him look like Darth Vader. Because if you're a fucking nutjob dictator, you love doing weird side projects like that. Yeah, well, Saddam was a weirdo. His son, was it Uday or Kusei, which was the really fucking evil son, which I just wish died more slowly than he did. That's a shame, Rowboat, but yeah, it's not like they were made for quality, is it? I wonder if the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has some more shit like that as well. Like, you know, stupid, maybe it's got Quran verses on that might stop bullets or something rather than actually being made of practical materials. Yeah, I can remember some weird PS2 and PSP adverts. Yeah, so if you can find this, the Bocian FS5000, on eBay, it's all right as it actually is. It's just much better with Rad Pro because it, you know, updates way faster. I've just been leaving this turned on with the USB power supply to see how well it stays on and counting. But yeah. Well, I'm now going to have to try and get that back little... Rad Pro is completely free, but like I said, the installing it might be... Oh, shit. Well, it falling down and smacking into the table like that didn't destroy it either, so that's a sign that it's fairly durable for what it is. Rad Pro is free, but bear in mind, if you get like the FS5000 like mine, annoyingly you can't just install it via the USB socket. You have to buy one of these things, a ST-Link V2. There are tutorial videos on how you do it, and you have to open up the FS5000, connect the little pins to the motherboard in the clock, whatever the other one is, 3.3 volts, and the ground cable to it. And then you have to do like almost like a manufacturer's firmware overwrite. But the problem is, like I said, right, Peach, is that that's a bit finicky doing that. And if that fucks up, you could brick your Rad Pro. So it's kind of, it's all right with its firmware it comes with, but it's much better with Rad Pro. I just wish you could install Rad Pro easier. Yeah, I was saying, because the older versions, apparently you could just plug into a USB socket and do it that way. But annoyingly on the newer ones, it seems like they've, you know, made it harder to do that, because some of the other Geigers I've got have like had various models where you can or can't, depending on the manufacturing year and date, you know, like do firmware updates. And the ones where you can do the firmware updates yourself via USB, Rad Pro is really easy to install. The problem is if it's one that's, you know, like been flashed in a factory and they never designed the firmware to be updated again, that's when you have to take them apart to get at the little holes. To show you what I mean by that, if the other one I had on the desk is still here on the desk. Yeah, here it is. You can see this one now. When I tried to put Rad Pro on this one, doing it the exact same way as the FS5000, doesn't turn on anymore. So I'm gonna try and get this one working again. But to show you what you have to kind of do is, if you see the circuit board there, there is 4 little holes just under the battery. I think technically, if I put it that way around, I think you can read it. It'll probably be mirrored, won't it now? But there's 4 little pins there on the circuit board. So what you do is you essentially put your pins in. Like saying, I'm not going to do it now to flash it, but you'd put, say, like, where I'm just going to put one of the pins in there. You do that with all 4 of the pins into the circuit board there with one of these flashing tools, and then you can connect it and basically rewrite the firmware on it. But like I said, annoyingly, when I tried to do the Rad Pro update on this by doing that, it's now bricked it. But again, I might be able to retry and install it and get it working again. No, sadly not the Iraqi Darth Vader helmet. We were on about those. Those are way more expensive. This is the Swiss M18 helmet. The Swiss M18 is basically after World War I, which Switzerland didn't get involved in because it was Switzerland, as far as I'm aware. The Swiss decided they wanted like a World War I era helmet. So they basically looked at the German helmet and said, we want that, but bigger. So it's basically a German World War I style helmet on steroids. And they used this up until the 70s. So it's just a very good quality steel helmet. But yeah, looks kind of Vadery because of the samurai, as Rajiv was saying, sort of bits that kind of come down the sides on it. Yeah, I wouldn't bother with this one personally, Saint, because it doesn't tick either. At least even with the default software on the Bocian, it still ticks. So it still does Geiger counter noises. Well, the helmet to the airport, definitely set a metal detector off because it's a helmet. And right, 76. So yeah, I've filmed 2 videos today, but that's been it. Otherwise, just had a lazy day. Didn't go stupid again last night. I've been sensible since I stopped that current job I've been doing, but I did have a couple of drinks with my dad last night, but as in I had the exact amount he had, actually a bit less. Yeah, dark helmet or whatever it is. Yeah. But I had yeah, so just a couple of glasses of Prosecco and that. So I think technically 2 full glasses. The third glass was like where we kind of, finished the bottle off, and we were doing that between the glasses to try and get it even, but he did have a bit more than me. So that would have only been a couple of units of alcohol, probably like 5 units at most. 6 units, I'd say, at the very most, for half a bottle of one of those. So, yeah, like I said, wasn't stupidly hungover or anything this morning, but didn't get up early. Didn't stay up to midnight. Same 76. Good for you if that's what you're doing. Personally, I'm trying to drink a lot less this year than I did last year. Yeah, and Happy New Year to everybody. Rum does sound good right about now, but yeah. No, saying I have tested for radon and that, but thankfully none. When I've used actual proper radon detectors before, it's been about what you expect. And that's specifically why any of the radium stuff I keep in glass cases or keep in, like airtight containers. Because, yeah, if I just had some radium, say, dials that were all cracked and that on a shelf, that would lead to radon, the room it's in, going up in radon levels, because obviously the radium will decay into radon, which then gets trapped in the room. But yeah, that's why I say, so although I've got, like say for this one, it's still pretty airtight because I've tested it with this one. You're not getting anything leaking out of there paint-wise or radon-wise or anything else. But the ones I've got are these that are like exposed and flaking paint. I've got sealed inside containers, so they don't, so the radon doesn't actually leak out. That's why ammo boxes with the rubber seals are really good for storing radon type stuff. I don't know how houses having built-in radon detectors, but you can detect radon pretty easily if you've got an alpha probe Geiger counter or anything like that. Because radon's an alpha source. If you get so for example, if I got one of these, like I said, you can get proper radon detectors, but they do work basically similar to a Geiger counter. You get one with an alpha detector, and you just basically put it on the floor for an hour or 2 in the room and see if it goes above background. Because obviously if there's radon at floor level, you'd be able to pick it up that way. And like I said, when I checked radon, all of the rooms in our house were within normal levels. But the radon detectors on Amazon, even though they were about 100 quid, weren't very good, because one of them I put next to a radiation source to test it for a bit, and it wouldn't ever reset. So I returned it saying it was faulty, because it basically was. If you put a radon detector in a room and it goes up, you should be able to then take it out and put it in another room to check the, reading in another room. It shouldn't permanently be contaminated, but I know radon does contaminate stuff, but still, it's a pretty fucking shit radon detector if it gets contaminated and then will never reset. Yeah, especially like basements and things, isn't it, Scott? But yeah, Cornwall is naturally in the UK the most radioactive sort of bit of the UK, because it's where the uranium mine was in the UK. I think called something Terrace Mine, and that was that's one of the ones you can find YouTube videos of people going around with Geiger counters getting quite high, just on surface level. Is it the DP75 you're thinking of, Saint? The DP75 is the one that goes to 500 Rontgen, if that's the one you're thinking of. Yeah, it's like a brown case detector. I've got one up on that shelf right there. You might be able to see it in the middle of the shelf if I turn that up there between the gas masks on that shelf right near the top. It's like the DP66 but better. The only thing I don't like about the DP75 is it doesn't tick. It does tick. It has like a very little chirp. Yeah, DP75s are pretty damn good detectors, actually. You can charge Soviet-era dosimeters off of them because they have a dosimeter charger spot in them, and it does basically background radiation levels to 500 Rontgen. And it does that with 2 different GM tubes in the probe that basically, when you get to a certain range, it switches the GM tube being used. On the very high ranges, it only detects X-ray and gamma rays above a certain type of energy, like a lot of detectors. But at the lower end, you can detect basically any beta radiation source of it and everything. Oh yeah, as Rajiv says, don't forget to like the stream. Yeah, the Czechs had a lot of uranium. I was watching a video the other day about the disused Czech uranium mines that the Soviets were like exploiting at one point before the Soviets discovered all of their own uranium, so they didn't need to loot the Czech uranium as much. Rowboat says, I'm doing my part. Yeah. That's pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, at least those... That's the only thing that I think is really kind of dodgy with some of those mines. Wouldn't be so much, although in really heavy steel uranium mines, you're going to get quite a dose from just natural uranium. But yeah, all the radon coming off of stuff in there and then getting trapped in the lower levels. So yeah, in theory, you're going to be breathing, if you went down a mine with a fair amount of uranium in, you're going to be breathing in because you're naturally going to get a bit of radium in that uranium. You're going to probably be breathing like quite a lot, like 70 cigarettes an hour worth of stuff if it's really, really heavy like radon sort of concentration in there. Yeah, exactly. So like I said, if you want to get a modern one, go for something like a radio code, because radio codes are very good and I like radio codes a lot. These things, because it has both the dosimeter function on it and a detector function. And these are a lot more sensitive than Geiger counters, because they are scintillation spectrometers, technically. Yeah, this has a dose mode as well, look, so... That sounds like that sounds like it was a joke to start with, Rajiv, and then it sounds like it isn't. I'll read it out and try not to. So I knew a chap that was in the Iraq War. He was a racist tosser, but he got injured badly and is in a wheelchair now. I recall he was deminer. He was a deminer. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Even if somebody's racist, I don't think they should have their limbs blown off. Probably. But yeah. Like I said, there's like a lot of good people that do the mining work, because you get all the people that like doing it voluntarily in like Ukraine and in African countries and all that, just so kids don't get their legs blown off by landmines. But yeah. No, Kevin, we keep bringing that up. Sadly, it's a Swiss M18, which is actually a better helmet if you're wearing it. Right? See your rowboat, Gorilla Man. If you're wearing it, it's a better helmet, because this is actually made out of steel. This sounds like it's turning even more of a joke, Rajiv. Like, I was just shagging his wife when I found out the bloke in Iraq had his legs blown off. But yeah, it's pressed steel, yeah. But it is steel, yeah. But yeah, the Iraqi one is apparently made of fiberglass, and like as people were saying, if you drop it, apparently it can crack. Ah, right, okay, yeah. So, but again, it keeps sounding like you're doing some sort of weird joke with this, Rajiv, like you're going to come up to a punchline. Yeah, same, because basically, although the radon will eventually decay by itself, if stuff's still producing the radon, it's kind of constantly being made at the rate it decays. And the problem is, because radon's heavier than air, it basically just fills up in like, lower levels, like hence why it's dangerous in basements. But yeah, so like I said, that's the Swiss one, and this is the one that's actually the steel one, because there's another Swiss helmet I've got, which is the same shape of this, but it's the aluminium civil defense one in yellow. I'll do a short on them. There's an interesting YouTube video. I need to find out what it's called again so I can link people to it, because it's one of those ones. My civil defense one came in yellow. That's aluminium. Yes, this one is as it was because it's a military steel one. This one isn't. No, No, because this isn't one of the Iraqi helmets, Rajiv. This is a Swiss M18. Like I said, yeah, the Iraqi helmet. This isn't the Iraqi helmet. Like I said, this is the Swiss M18. Like I said, they look pretty similar, but this one is actually a proper military helmet, as in it would protect you from shrapnel and flying debris to some extent, because it is made of manganese pressed steel or whatever it is. But yeah, so it was about this place called Ron's Rentals or something like that. I'm trying to find there was basically, I'm going to try and find the thing again, but there was this place where it was called like Ron's Rentals, and these people rented it, and then eventually found out that because it used to be an aircraft radium painting or like repainting facility, and it never got deconned properly, they were like smoking the equivalent of 40 cigarettes a day every day they were in there, because of all the fucking radon gas everywhere, because of all the spilt radium that had gone everywhere. And literally the back garden in this place, they just used to dump the fucking paint stripped radium into a trench, rather than disposing of it properly. But I'm trying to remember what it's called now, because it was like Carndish Instruments or something like that. No, I'm not thinking fucking Gemini of the US Radium Corp. That's not what I'm thinking of at all. But yeah, I know ChatGPT has told me the correct answer for this before. That sounds a bit disgusting, Rajiv, but yeah, glad you got it all cleaned out. Yeah, a bit like the British Mark 6 helmet, the first gen of it. Yeah, it will protect you from bumping your heads, but wouldn't protect you from anything like the US Army actually fighting you. And like I said, apparently they were for Saddam's most elite troops. So, you know, like, oh, for my conscript soldiers, here is a Soviet steel helmet or like a US M1 helmet. For you, my most trusted fanatical soldiers, here is some plastic that looks like Darth Vader, because one of my like retarded kids, who's also like a horrible human being, was a fan of Star Wars or something. So we're going to dress you all up like Darth Vader for some reason. While Uday or Kusei, whichever it was, then goes and rapes and kills women. Yeah. Like I said, Uday and Kusei didn't die slowly enough, sadly. I'm just going to look up on ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is one of the things I really like about ChatGPT. As YouTube has got worse, not YouTube, as Google search has got worse, there is a lot of stuff I can find using ChatGPT that you can't through Google anymore. Rentals, radium paint, YouTube. Again, I found this before. ChatGPT should be able to find it for me. I think I've got it bookmarked somewhere, but be careful, Rajiv, if you say you're going to try and restore some weapons, because 2-tier Kia might think you mean getting a deactivated gun and making it into a fun again. Or he might think that you're somehow going to be one of those people buying a blank firer and turning it into a fun, even though, like we've said before, the amount of work you have to do to that. Now this is doing the fucking thing about the radium girls. Search chats. Yeah, search chats. Radium. Here we go. Not for public release. I found it by looking up my old chats, but here you go. This is pretty interesting. But yeah, this is quite interesting if people are on about interesting in radon and stuff like that, radium and radon. Yeah, how bad it can get if the government doesn't want to tell you about what they've been doing in your property. That's right, 76. Hope your husky's all right. I like dogs. But Yeah, I think Kia did a New Year's message, didn't he? Where he lied several times already on his New Year's message. So we're off to a good fucking start with that twat. And again, maybe I'll end up going to prison because I don't use very nice language about Keir Starmer or Sadiq Khan or Rachel Reeves, Rachel from Accounts, or any of that lot. Because yeah, I wouldn't think it'd be a good idea to repeatedly do that though. Because yeah, in theory that's something you can do, isn't it? But it's also the sort of thing I could imagine could frag the flare gun, depending on what it's made out of. I know that's why in the UK flare guns are actually quite hard to get, because although flares can be bought for like civilian use, they already know that people know you can do that with flare guns. So yeah, that's one of the things, even though I don't like a lot of our laws, I can actually understand why they've made flare guns hard to get, even if you can get the flares where you can put them on the ground and then they shoot up into the air on their own. So you are a supporter of the Austrian painter because you don't like Kia. Why is that? Beavis and Butthead, yeah. Cool. Whatever it is with Beavis and Butthead. But yeah, like I said, I always find quite weird using like insults like leftist and that, and I'm not having to go at you here, Saint, because like I said, it's like I said before, I like some of the ideas of socialism, but I don't like the current lot of socialists who I don't even think are real socialists we've got in power. Ooh, Charles Bronson. I don't know, Saint. I'm sure there's lots of other reasons you're allowed to have them, because you can buy fireworks all years round. Yeah, you mean probably lefty virtue signaling, parasitic, we can think of some other terms to go in there. Champagne socialist is sometimes a word that's good for those people that don't come from a poor background but decide, they know what's best for everybody else. But it's all fun and games until they have to give up some of their money for the socialism, isn't it? But they'll push it on everybody else until that point. Well, personally, I support painters because it's a job. If you want your house painted, you want somebody that does a good job. My uncle used to be a painter and decorator. That used to be his job. So, my uncle was a painter, but he was a British painter, not an Austrian painter. What setup are you on about? This is just a helmet. If you're on about this setup, I haven't really. This isn't really a proper setup. It's just me with a Swiss helmet on my head. Like I said, I'm not really buying any masks at the moment, PJ Woodward, because just basically for the fact that, with my how much money stuff costs and the fact at the moment YouTube is my proper main source of income, because the job I was working that was just breaking my mental health, I had to basically give up. So at the moment, until I find something I actually want to do, I'm just going to keep, just living frugally and making as much money through YouTube. But I haven't really seen much else for sale, in all honesty, because that's the thing, is it gets to a point where most of the surplus market you can own, or every mask that you don't own is quite similar to one you don't, if that makes sense. M40s. Yes, M40s. One of these. Let's put the M40 on then, because you mentioned it. I've already got one. But yeah, that's not a bad price, sub £100 for an M40 in the UK. Again, like I said, don't like the straps on this. I am doing a load of shorts, like quick reviews of gas masks of shorts, because that way some more people watch them that don't otherwise watch them. That actually kind of works with the Swiss helmet, so there you go. But yeah, like I said, the main problem, Kim says, "Ich bin ein Texan." But yeah, like I said, the main issue is just like with me, because I've got so many masks, is just
there's quite a lot of masks where they're either very, very similar to something I already have, or, you know, I just don't see much I don't already own or have already done a video on. Oh yeah, I definitely prefer retro helmets. Yeah, and again, this protects more of your head, because your ears are underneath it, look. Yeah, it's kind of cool this actually works with this helmet. I wasn't expecting that. M40 is like a 6 or a 7, I'd say. The main things I don't like about the M40, if we want to do the things to say, let's go from 10 points and then do things to subtract points. Drinking tube doesn't have like a little lever for moving it forwards and back. So the drinking tube always pokes me in the mouth all the time. So, you know, it's one of those ones where I prefer a mask where you can get the drinking tube completely out the way, then use a lever to put it right next to your mouth for biting onto, as opposed to always sort of just kind of poking you in the face. The mask needs the second skin, which again isn't a massive problem, but it's just one of those weird things. Why not make the mask out of butyl or whatever to begin with? And again, I know it's because of allergies and all that, but the US has just gone to butyl masks anyway. And the straps are a bit kind of old and shit on the M40. They're nowhere near as good as modern mask straps, but otherwise 6 or 7 out of 10, I'd say. I prefer the S10 to it, and like the Canadian C4 and that, but it's still a very good mask. Yeah, Rob knew what the helmet was. Well done, Rob. But yeah, I'll take that off again now. But yeah, the straps are definitely
one of the lower points for me on this mask. Because if you don't know, the straps on the M40 are basically like kind of World War II era straps, a bit more modern than that. But they are like those very basic buckles with kind of straps that pull and pull and pull. But again, in theory, I suppose you could put a more modern strap system on it. That wouldn't be, you know. It's still in as good condition as it was last time, PJ. I mean, it's got the issue that the eyepieces are a fairly like yellowy orange on it and clouded because of, you know, the cheap kind of glass or whatever they made them from at the time. But, you know, it's been kept in its box away from sunlight, so it's still in very good condition. Yeah, M1918 or M18, the Swiss helmet. Yeah, Rob. Because, yeah, they literally, as soon as World War One ended, Switzerland said, we need to get, like, a helmet for our army. Because I guess, like everybody else, again, I don't think Switzerland was in World War One because they were a neutral country. But I think they basically looked at, you know, every other nation obviously went to having helmets because it stops you losing soldiers at a really high rate from little bits of shrapnel and rocks flying up from explosions. Said, we need to get a helmet. And they looked at the German one and go, we want that, but bigger. Because the cool thing with Switzerland is their military equipment, because they're a very rich country and they're normally always buying stuff for themselves and not worrying about, you know, the budget. Swiss gear tends to be really fucking good because they're not actually going, oh, it's not cost effective to have that. They're basically going, what is the best stuff we can have and we will buy it. Yeah, that's the one that replaced this one. Yeah, I've got one of those as well somewhere, unless I sold it. I can't remember. I might have actually sold that helmet. I can't bloody remember now. Oxfordshire. But yeah, that helmet is essentially this one, isn't it? But without the big flange, sort of whatever you want to call it on, like the rim around it, where they've basically just made it slightly like an M1, yeah. But you can see it's still kind of got a bit of a Stahlhelm shape to it. But yeah, is it the Swiss M71 actually? M71 helmet. Yeah, it's the Swiss M71 helmet you're thinking of. That's kind of like their M1 helmet. Because yeah, they kept this in service from like 1918 to like the 70s, 80s, and then slowly phased it out for that one. Yeah, I like the ones in Alpenflage, like, you know, the ketchup camo. I thought you said produced then, Josh, but you said protected. Yeah, Denmark protected a lot of Jewish people in World War II. What, from the Nazis hiding them and that? I haven't actually seen 1918, I don't think. But yes, Swiss stuff is very good. Because again, like I was just saying, it's because what the Swiss were doing was essentially saying, you know, like, we want to survive as a country. We want the best fucking military fighting equipment we can get. We don't care about the cost. So hence why all their rifles were such good quality, you know, and all their gear is so good for the time, because it was just made exactly for mountain fighting. Everything else, like the Sturmgewehr 57 I've got. Apparently the Sturmgewehr 57 used to be one of the most expensive rifles ever built at the time, you know, per rifle produced, outside of, you know, like very fancy hunting rifles and things like that, because it was just a case of they weren't cheapening out any of the production of it. And like where I've got the old Schmidt-Rubin rifle, the Schmidt-Rubin and like the K31 family are stupidly good for like a pre-World War I rifle. It wouldn't surprise me, Rob, because a lot of steel helmets could stop pistol rounds depending on how much energy is in the round and the angle. Normally, Tokarev pistol rounds would go through all the old military steel helmets, but 9mm and 45 and anything weaker than that, as long as you're at the right angle and, you know, you weren't unlucky with a badly sort of cast helmet, a lot of them would stop at the steel helmets. Because, you know, you don't need much thickness of steel to deflect a pistol round. Hence why, like, you know, like police armored vests are so lightweight for the ones that are pistol rated, because it's only when you start getting into the higher velocity rounds that you end up having all of the issues trying to stop that stuff. Yeah, I'm all right. Thank you, David. Fairly quiet New Year's Eve last night. Some relatives came round, hence why I didn't get a time to do a stream in the end. And then when they were gone, it was a bit too late to do a stream. So I had a couple of glasses of wine with my dad, because it's also my dad's birthday yesterday, because his birthday is always on the 31st of December. So I can always remember when his birthday is, so I don't forget, because it's a very convenient day for me to remember. And then, yeah, not hungover today, and just having a quiet day, really. Got some YouTube stuff filmed earlier today and uploaded for later in the week, or no, like 2 weeks' time. But that's interesting, PJ. I've never actually looked through that. Well, both of them have the same problem of needing proprietary filters, but I definitely prefer the M50 to the GSR. I mean, I would argue that if I needed to get spare filters, I prefer the GSR, just simply because in Britain you can find GSR filters for sale relatively easily. But the actual mask I've got in my bug out bag is a C50, so, you know, the M50 that takes 40mm filters. So the C50 and the M50 are genuinely good masks. No, they're a different connector, Saint. They work in a very similar way, but they're a different type of connector. Both are ones that are designed to seal as soon as you remove the filter, and each one takes like a lightish weight sort of cheek filter. If I remember when I used to have my M50, I think they still rotate on, but it's not quite the same bayonet plug-in fitting. But they do kind of go on at a slightly 45-degree angle, and then you flip them like that, if I remember right. It's still around. It's just for whatever reason, the Americans and us decided we didn't want it, where every other nation basically still does use NATO STANAG. And we do for lots of our like backup stuff as well, still use that. But yeah, it's like with the US coming up with that weird new rifle round now, isn't it? Like the 6.5 or whatever, not really NATO standardized. Yeah, they're good masks, aren't they? Like I said, there's a couple of things that I still think could be better on them, but in terms of good quality visor, you know, it's a good face fit for me, not stupidly heavyweight. It works with a lot of helmets because of the shape of the thing. Yeah, you can convert a GSR to be 40mm, but you can't really convert it back once you've done it. I do have a Scott FSR or whatever it's called, or an FRR or FFR, whichever the name is, somewhere, which is like the 40mm from the factory one as well. Well, yeah, where your comrades are running out of filters and you've got a massive supply of 40mm, but sorry, comrade, cannot share. You do not have the 40mm mask. I've got a couple of old sets of military boots which are comfy, and I use them sometimes if I was going hiking or whatever, but for the most part, no. For clothing, I like camo and that, but I more just have the gas masks and helmets and stuff like that. But again, there are some videos coming out soon of some, you know, various camo jackets and that, where I'm just doing shorts of a lot of my gear to re-go through the stuff I've got. Yeah, it's because it was made for individual sale, not sale to a government, which generally means you have to make them of higher quality. And yeah, it was made in a period where I don't think it was Scott going bankrupt. Again, the FRR I think I've got in this room, but I can't remember if it's one of the ones up here further back or if it's one of the other masks, you know, down somewhere else. But I have seen it around somewhere. It'll be this one. Yeah, there we go. Could giving this a little clean, but yeah. I won't bother putting a filter on it now, but as you can see, it's not the GSR connections. This one actually has its own proper 40mm thing. I still find this isn't a very comfortable mask on my chin for whatever reason. Because I just don't know why. Again, I think it's one of those masks. Although this mask makes an airtight seal with my chin, it's just one of those masks that, for me, the shape of my chin always pokes into like the bottom bit of the mask, where I think it's meant to sit on a little ledge. But yeah, I just have a face shape that doesn't really work with a mask. There's a bit of dust went flying up when I was doing that, so let's not carry on wearing that. But yeah, it looks cool. That and the M50 do look very futuristic. Yeah, I've still got a few blank guns that are still legal, but all the ones that I had to get rid of, I either surrendered to the police or gave to other people that, you know, are then going to either surrender them to the police or, you know, risk whatever themselves. But, yeah, there are still legal blank guns in the UK, but if you don't own a blank gun and you're in the UK at the moment, I personally wouldn't fucking buy one because of the fact that, you know, you could spend a load of money on it and then they could say the very next day, oh, you can't legally have that, you need to surrender it and we're not going to give you any money for it. Because they tried to make some bullshit up that the reason they don't have to do a buyback is because these types are illegal all along. And you should have known they were illegal all along, even though they were legal. Not with DX, no. Just because there's still... They don't seem to have done much with DX or antique, you know, obsolete calibers in ages. At one point, they made a few obsolete calibers no longer on the obsolete caliber list, but then they added way more obsolete calibers onto the list. But no, DX and that I'm not too worried about. Again, like we keep saying, I have to be careful about what I talk about on YouTube. But if somebody was going to go down the looty route, that would be a lot easier than doing all this fucking conversion with blank firers or DX or whatever, you know. They could make something easier in their workshop if they got all the proper materials and they had a manual than if they were trying to convert something. But the government doesn't give a shit about that. It's all about, you know, control and pretending they're fixing violent crime when they're not. All right, thanks, Ian. Glad you find the stuff interesting. No, like I said, there's a couple that I was interested in for a while, but a lot of those died during COVID. The only one that's near me, no, they don't. Antique guns don't need a license. Antique and obsolete caliber are Section 58. They do not need a license. I can't get one out to show you right now, even though I've got them because of YouTube policies, but antique guns, like in the US, are black powder guns. Even if you're a criminal or felon in the US, you can have a black powder gun. Same thing in the UK. They're under their own regulation. They don't fit into Section 1, Section 2. I mean, obviously, if you were loading it up and shooting it, then and the government caught you doing that, they might want to speak to you. But simply owning them, there's no issue. Black powder, nearly all the black powder cartridges on the UK are on the obsolete list. Which one's the model 1873? Hang on. If it's the black powder cartridge for the 1873, then it would be UK legal as far as I'm aware. You can find a full list of the obsolete calibers somewhere. But like I said, I've got the most kind of good obsolete caliber I've got is the Schmidt-Rubin. Because that's like the mod. Is it the Model 1889 Schmidt Rubin I've got? I can't remember. And again, I can't show them on YouTube, unfortunately. I can show them on normal videos. I'm not allowed to show them on the stream. And that's the one with the 10 round, or is it 12 round internal magazine? Yeah, again, the government, thankfully, Saint, doesn't seem to know that people can do a thing called reloading. So we're just going to hope they never catch on to that, or they think reloading is above the skills of an average person. But yeah, again, it's a stupid thing, because people can manually reload ammunition. You know, with the muskets, they could cast their own musket balls if they didn't just buy them. Again, it's just one of those things, but the amount of effort it would take for somebody to do a crime with it, it's one of those things where I think they never happen, because, you know, if somebody wants to do horrible crimes, they're just going to buy a fucking knife, aren't they? It's a lot of effort to spend a load of money on an antique gun, then reload your, like, hand load your own ammo for it and everything else. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I don't even try and make sense of a lot of our laws anymore, because with a lot of our laws, it's just politicians at the time brought something in to pretend they were doing something. Yeah, like I'm saying, it's literally very similar to the US with black powder laws for felons, the one we have in the UK for that it's just literally not considered a gun by law, even though they're fucking guns. But yeah, Kevin, like I said, annoyingly near me, there used to be an antique shooting club that did a lot of like muskets and old bolt actions and stuff like that. I'd have definitely joined up with that, but it died during COVID, as far as I'm aware. So the only gun club near me now is one that's like a 22 LR at like 10 yards or whatever, you know, target club, which I'd get bored of very quickly. I had some friends that did it, but they got bored of it very quickly, because, you know, it's always the same distance, always shooting from a bench, always at the same scorecard. So they, you know, it just gets boring very quickly. And obviously you can do like clay pigeon and stuff, like skeet shooting, but you know, other than that, there's not much really near me at all that's sort of interesting shooting, if you like, interesting ranges. Like I said, the historical stuff would interest me a hell of a lot more, going outside in the fresh air and, you know, 100 yards in. Make an update video on what, sorry, Saint? Make updated video on what, Saint? Sorry, it might have hidden on your comments. No, because I can't legally serve medically or whatever, you know, can't serve for medical reasons. I doubt they're going to change any of those rules. But with the current government we've got in the UK that hates the British people, no, I would not serve for any government organisation. If in the future that changed, there could be, you know, I might reconsider that. But the current UK, you know, like establishment hates the people that live here. You know, if you join the army now, you know, I'm not trying to insult anybody that's been in the army in Britain or whatever, but, you know, the government might say, shoot the people that are anti-government. You know, it's that kind, we're going that way in Britain at the moment. So, you know, and the government here loves also prosecuting soldiers decades after wars have happened, saying, oh, our soldiers committed war crimes, let's put them in trials. So that keeps happening with Northern Ireland. It's been happening with Iraq and Afghanistan. So why you'd want to fucking serve for a government that, you know, then tries to throw you under the bus for political brownie points of another foreign government, I don't know. But yeah, I don't want to start speaking on here like I'm one of these sort of people that sounds like I'm trying to call for some sort of civil unrest, but I'm just sort of saying I don't trust the government over here at all. Yeah, fancy watch. It's just a Chinese smartwatch. It's not fancy at all. It's I think this one, because a few different brands or whatever, or the rebrands of it do it. It's called like the Hero or something. Let me find them for you. They're all right for what they are. Let's see. So it's called the something Hero, and it's like a generic Chinesian watch. Because I think with mine you couldn't even find brand names for it, because like it's called DFit, the app I've got. I'm just seeing if I can find a particular watch I've got on. If I just put smartwatch GPS, because although it says Hero on the side, that doesn't seem to be a thing. No. But yeah, it's just a generic Chinesian one. All right, here's the one I bought. Look, so I'm just going to remove all the crap from the URL so I can link it. You have purchased this 2 times because my mum bought one and I quite liked it, and I bought one to replace my Fitbit because the Fitbit was wearing out and cost a lot more. What is that behind you in orange? Whereabouts are you looking? If you're looking at that, that's just a hoodie. It's my merch hoodie. But yeah, it's just literally one of these. It's not a fancy watch at all. It just does everything like the Google type ones do, but stupidly cheap because it's Chinese. Yeah, I definitely think at some point soon this government is going to have an election, and they're going to get the absolute, shit kicked out of them. And again, not certain violence in a political way, because they are literally one of the most unpopular governments we've ever had on record here. And yeah, it's gotten to the stage now where I think people are so fucking fed up with them. We've not even had them for their full term yet, but we're going to basically be voting for completely different political parties. Like people keep saying, they're saying we're going far left or far right in the UK, but everybody is so pissed off with this sort of centre ground type of politics now where they keep promising stuff and never deliver because, it's too difficult when we got into power, so we're just going to sit here doing fuck all, pissing everyone off. Yeah, politically decimated, that's the word. Because if you didn't see Kia's latest thing he's done that's pissed everyone off in the UK, is it turns out, social housing, so let's say you're a single mum or a poor person that's waiting for a government, where you get cheaper housing that the government provides, turns out all the new builds and everything are going for illegal immigrants, and he thinks that's a great idea. Like, that's not going to piss anyone off, is it? Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, as a homeless person, you can't get priority for cheap housing because I gave it to some illegal immigrants. Wasn't that a great idea? Oh, why doesn't anyone like me? Now, I get a bit irked, Budder, when some people say to me, it's the risk from it is so minimal, it's fine. I'm like, well, if you want to risk it yourself, it's fine, but don't tell other people like the risk is so minimal, it's fine. All right, see you, Saint. Redo a ban mentality video. I'll do an updated video talking, if you like, about politicians banning stuff without understanding the reason for any of it, why all the laws never make sense. I need to at some point, if I forget today, you can remind me another day, but I need to at some point start up a video ideas word sheet again. But YouTube does do like a cool inbuilt feature now where it can brainstorm based on your popular ideas and what you get asked about a lot in the comments, like videos you could do. So, where it's actually doing good stuff with AI. Ninja swords. Oh, yeah, ninja swords. Hang on. Zombie knives. Oh, no. Ninja sword. This is technically an okay katana because it's hand-forged. Forged 1,000 times. But yeah, ninja sword. Oh, no, it's a ninja sword. Oh, no. Scary. It's, even though katanas, like I said before, sorry, weeaboos are shitter than proper European swords. Much rather have a good cutlass than this thing. But even I don't mind it. It's just not a proper handguard. Weird, like both two-handed, one-handed handle. But yeah, ninja sword. Oh, like the ninja throwing stars. They're the stupidest thing on the ban list because a lot of those like shuriken things wouldn't even fucking cut you up very badly. Like like ones that are like the blade that long. I like the S10 with the red lenses more than the black lenses. As I said before, the C50 is my favorite mask in terms of functionality and what I'd use. FM12s, CT12, S10 for Shida, A2, F2, A4, or whatever it is, are all ones I like quite a lot. Yeah, short swords are better because you can actually swing them around and recover them more quickly. Long swords are actually a lot more cumbersome and catch on things. You can have an air rifle. Yeah, you can own air rifles in the UK. I've got some in 223, some in 22, and some in 177. You can have them in quite a lot of different calibers. It's just they're limited by power if you don't have a firearms license. They're not limited by size of the pellet. They're limited by muzzle velocity of the air rifle. Let me look up which one that is, PJ. And again, like I said, the main problem is affording stuff, because like I said, I can't really... I've got not that one, but I have got the one in SS Leto, you know, Islam pattern or whatever they call it. So not the one that's like green and white, but I've got the yellow and green kind of like one that's based off the German World War II one. I've done videos on that on my channel. It's very, very effective in the summer at a camouflage unit. Bastard sword, yeah. Oh, look. Somebody says, you look like you enjoy looking at kids. I think you're a cunt, mate. I'm not a nonce, but it does seem weird you're projecting like that. But you have a lovely day. And stay away from kids. But, yeah. Hornady Zombie Max Hollow Points. Oh, yeah. That would definitely be super illegal in the UK. Oh, no, it's ammo and it has zombie on it. Oh, no. That's like Mega Assault, semi-auto, fully automatic ammo. But yeah, anyway, hope everybody's having a good day in that. And like, obviously, Happy New Year to everybody. Don't forget to like the stream before I go off, because, you know, that does seem to sometimes help. Like I said, my analytics are actually completely up now. It's really good. So to give you an idea, I quit my job. When was it I quit my job? Very early December, I think. But I didn't get back to doing YouTube stuff until about December the 9th, December the 10th. My views are pretty flat for the first week and a bit, and now they've gone up on average 3 times like the amount of views per day, 2.5 to 3 times the amount of views per day, and I'm at 581 subs, 281 more than usual. So if I do the last, let's do the last 14 days, for example. So yeah, rather than going from the 4th, let's go from, say, the 20th and just see what we're up from here to the end of the month, like percentage wise, when YouTube actually started sharing my stuff again properly, because I'm actually active on here again. Oh, it doesn't tell you how it compared to the previous point, annoyingly. Although I can do the last 7 days. Does that do yeah, 71% in the last 7 days more than the previous 7 days. Watch time up 97%. 156% rise in subscribers. Revenue is better, but still not great on YouTube. But like I said, that's, you know, I appreciate anybody that sends me money on any sort of platform to support me. And I still enjoy doing YouTube, like I said, because at least it isn't a soul-destroying sort of thing to do. Because for the most part, you chat to people who are interesting and not put it up with Karens. Although I do get like people like that in the comments that go, oh, you're a nonce. What's can't stop the signal, Mac, from? That sounds really familiar, Scott. I'm going to have to... Is that like Fifth Element or something? Oh. End of Serenity, is it? I have seen Serenity, and I've seen the Firefly TV series, but... like I said, I wouldn't have remembered that. Anyway, yep. Yeah, I agree, 76. They are probably PDF files themselves. Like we were saying, it's probably projection, isn't it? It nearly always is with these sort of people. It's like the people that always like, I bet you're a gay, or like, you know, into all this tranny stuff and whatever else. It's like, it's really interesting you just bring that up out of nowhere. Like, why is it always on your mind? Because again, it's like the thing that always makes me laugh with Russia being based and trad and all this. And then it's like, you look up some of the stuff that goes on in Russia and it's like, yeah, it's purely just projection. It's like, yes, what an morally upstanding country ruled by a kleptocrat where, you know, so many forms of, you know, the not gay bum sex, because it's technically like male on male prison, you know, like gang rape sex stuff. It's not gay, comrade, because it is I am the giver and he is not consenting. And HIV rates and divorce rates and alcoholism. What a paradise based on Trad Putin, savior of white race. Bob Villain, what that like dickhead weird rapper guy or whatever it was that was doing death to the IDF or whatever it was, and then the BBC didn't cut him off. That one. Is that Bob Villain? And then he got, at least America was like, yeah, you're welcome to say that, but you're not coming into the US. And he got a bit upset, didn't he? That's the one, isn't he? Yeah, but yeah, that is the modern state of the UK. Anyway, I will be off. So yeah, have a good day, everybody. Happy New Year to you. I hope everyone has a better year than last year, because I think for all of us, last year was probably a bit shit. Oh yeah, I know people like that, Kevin, that will say stuff like, "You want to do a school shooting because you have all those guns. I bet you're going to do a school shooting." I don't know why they have American voices like this, but like a Bubba voice. But yeah, I've met people like that. Like they can't understand that you might just like them and enjoy just plinking with them at a range. No, you must have violent intent because you have them. There's no other reason you'd have them. So. But that'd be like saying, "Oh, you've got a nice car. That means you must go speeding nonstop and running people over." Like I said, it's just a weird fucking logic thing, isn't it? Of all these things, but you do get weirdos like that. But yeah, anyway, have a good New Year, everybody. Hopefully, catch you for a stream tomorrow. And like I said, daily videos coming out at the moment. So yeah, have a good day, everybody, and I'll catch you all hopefully tomorrow, probably in the evening if I do a stream.